Hello! I love that.
Jos mä aloitan, niin tekin uskallat. What about bass players? You were talking about
The relationship between the drummer and the percussion?
between drummer and
Yeah.
band. I have an example of a song or a tune where you play on.
Whoa. This
Yeah.
guy did his homework.
Yeah.
I'm so glad somebody
Last night,
did.
last night I had time. There's a slap bass. John Daniel plays a lot of slap. How do you relate to that when you play slap funk?
You mean the relationship between the bass, the drums, and the percussion?
Yeah. Now there's the third part.
Well, I always think, the relationship between the drums, the bass, and the percussion is like this. I see myself, being the percussionist, I see myself as tying in the drums and the bass player. That's what I think that a percussionist should do. He bonds the drums with the bass. Because, he's got the rhythms, but he's also got a kind of a low thing that kind of mixes with the bass. So, like I said, the relationship between bass drums and percussion is very crucial. I call that the boiler room. Anybody know what a boiler room is? If you've been on the ship, you go down to the boiler room,
Yeah.
the guys are down there shoveling the coal. Those are guys that make the machine go. Drums, bass, and percussion, I consider the boiler room, because that keeps the machine going. That's the foundation. And the part that the percussion plays is to tie in this, that. That's my opinion. Other people might have a different way of thinking about it, but I think if the boiler room isn't jumping, the machine's not moving. It will not. There's just no way it can go. So it's a very important relationship that the drums, bass, and percussion have. I think it's very, very, very crucial to any group, to any band, to any music, to any situation. That unit has to lock. If it doesn't, it sinks. It don't go nowhere. So it's a very important relationship, I think. And like I said, I'm usually that's the spot. I'm always trying to tie in what the bass is doing, because they're percussive, depending on who the bass player is. It's a percussive type of instrument, but with some melody to it, with some notes. And then the drums are keeping the beat. So the percussion is locking in with the rhythm and with the notes also, depending on what he's playing and stuff like that. So that's basically how I feel about that relationship, or the boiler room. Very important, very important. What was that recording from?
That's a Brandon Fields.
Brandon Fields?
Or other places.
Yeah. That's a good one. I forgot all about that one.
Long time ago.
Okay. Let's play something. Let's see what we're going to do. comes from a musician, the stuff that's unadulterated, the stuff that isn't premeditated, it's not planned, it's just straight off the top of your head. Usually that's the best. Usually that's the best. With musicians like Dave Sanborn, who I've been blessed to play with, he's typical example. You got to catch him right away. You got to catch the first thing that comes out of that saxophone. Because then he starts thinking. He starts thinking too much. You know, and he'll always go, I could do it better, I could do it better. And of course, I mean, everything the guy plays is wonderful. I mean, even when he's not happening, he's happening. You know, he's such a powerful player. But any producer that's, you know, used him or worked with him will tell you, you got to catch the first stuff right off the top of his head because that's the most beautiful stuff. A lot of musicians are like that. A lot of musicians, guys like Buzzy Feeden, excellent guitar player that I've had the pleasure of working with the Larson Feeden band. And he's like that too. I mean, the guy can solo forever. You know, you come back 2 days later, he's still soloing. You're like, hey, Buzzy, you finished? No, man, I got another lick, didn't you? Wow, wow. And it's amazing. But I have, that's one thing that I have learned, you know, that's very common with most musicians. You know, the stuff, you know, that's off the top of the head is usually the most beautiful stuff because, like I said, it's unadulterated. It hasn't been processed yet in the head, you know. Any good producer will tell you that. But, anyway, that was a perfect example also of the way a bass, drum, and percussion can work. They work very well. I just met these guys. I just met him today. I met him last night. You know what I'm saying? And we just locked. I just came up with an idea. He took it, then he passed it on to him, and I'm just there along for the ride. You know what I'm saying? But it's a perfect example on how, you know, the interaction between the three, the boiler room, should work. Even without rehearsal, it should work. You know, if each musician is really listening and feeling everything in their hearts and they're watching what's going on, it's a playground. I mean, we probably could have went on and on and on with that groove for as long as we wanted to, and it all would have been great. I know, because these cats are incredible. But that's a basic example of how things work in the boiler room. You know. Right now, I want to call up a buddy of mine, Peter Korpela. And, oh, by the way, I'm sorry, guys, introduce yourself. Marko Liski on bass. Oh, I'm not going to try that one.
Kyllä te mut tunnette Miri, morjens.
Please. Now, let's do some shaking. You know, like we did. You did that the last time, right? Yeah. So that's the basic, I think that's the basic technique for playing shakering. Then after that, I mean, it's all up to you to really create different things, you know. Because a lot of guys, you know, they write books, they do videos on stuff. You know, I'm not opposed to that. But as far as I'm concerned, it handcuffs you. I don't like to handcuff a student. I like to give them enough to take them, you know, for them to take themselves even further. You give them the tools, and then you say, it's up to you to take it as far as your imagination will let you, you know. I kind of learned that lesson when I was with, my only conga lesson that I ever had was with Chino Pozo, who was an incredible percussionist. And, you know, I was introduced, hey, this Chino, and I said, man, you got to teach me some stuff, man. I had already been playing, I was in high school, you know, I'd been playing a lot of Latin bands, and, you know, my hands were all chopped up and messed up. And, you know, he was like, you know, I played for him for a few minutes, and he says, I said, well, you know, are you going to teach me something? He says, no, man, I don't have to teach you nothing, man. You know, you opened the door, now you got to walk in. I was like, what do you mean? He says, well, you know, you got all the tools. You know, all you got to do is use them. Know how to use them. Take it as far as your imagination will let you. You know? Don't let people handcuff you with technique. Too much technique stifles your imagination. You know what I'm saying? That's the way I feel about it. I don't know about the rest of the clowns in the business. Everybody's got their own opinions, you know. But I really think that what each person has in them individually before the technique is applied, I think is the great stuff. That's your signature. That becomes your signature. When you learn the technique, and then you put in what you feel you want to put in, then it becomes your signature. You make it yours. You know. And like I said, you learn the basics. That's a basic shakering rhythm. That's it. That's it. The rest is all up to you, basically. This stuff, you know, this stuff, and that. You know, this is the important part, right here. You get that down, and then the rest is all up to you. And it's the same with gongas. You know, the gongas have their own basic thing that, you know. You have your slap, you have your flat, and you have your tone. And then there are other things that you can do. You can, you know, there's a lot of tricks, you know. But that's exactly what they are. They're just tricks. You know, if you're in a recording session and you're trying to lay down a groove, you're not going to be going, you know, I mean, it looks great on stage, man, but in the studio, nobody gives a shit. Who cares? You know, they're talking about, we want a good basic track. That's all you want. You know, so all this other nonsense is just like, it's too show. I'm not really into the show thing. I'm just a player, you know. But like I said, you learn the basics. You learn those basics, you get those down, and then, you know, you can, if you know, what I suggest is to listen to a lot of different percussions, listen to a lot of rhythms. Pick up a little bit from each person all over the place, you know, and then make it your own, you know. That's the way I think about it myself. Any questions right now?
Yes.
Oh, my goodness. Jeez, what a surprise.
Go ahead. I'll be a minute. This is my last.
Oh, no, please, don't say it.
What if the medium 8-note groove close to chart?
Go ahead.
And then you start doing that. Producer says that, no, I don't want the cha-cha pattern. I want some pop or rock. I know it's a Latin instrument. How do you do it?
That's a good question. I've played on a lot of pop albums, so I've had that thrust upon me many, many times. It's just a matter of changing the accent, you know. It's just a matter of shifting. It's the same thing also if he was going to do, give me a bebop groove. You know, bebop, jazz.
Yeah.
Ding, ding, ding. 9 out of 10 times, when a percussionist hears that, he goes, oh, no, man, I can't play to that. That's not Latin. That's not, you can't play, you know. So to me, that's wrong. You can play to just about anything if you use your head and use your ears, you know? Go ahead, baby. You take that rhythm, like he says, you take that basic cha-cha rhythm or mambo rhythm or whatever you want to call it. Oh my God, all of a sudden it's jazz. And then, you know, I mean, all it takes is just shifting the accents, you know, straightening it out here and there, just shifting it. And it doesn't take that much, you know. A lot of the percussionists in the earlier days, they, you know, so steeped in tradition, they just couldn't hear any Latin percussion. In the early days, guys like Mongo, you know, when there was a jazz thing, they would actually do, and it was kind of a conflict. And that was always something that really bugged me about percussionists, that certain percussionists, they don't know how to let go of the Latin stuff. Just let it go. And it's the same thing when you apply to a pop thing. Give me a basic, you know, 2 and 4. Away from all that stuff that they tell you about in those videos, and this is the Latin way, and this is the clave. That's another thing we got to talk about, is that clave. Don't get jammed up by the clave. Don't get jammed up by some cat who says, oh man, you turned the clave around. What, is God going to strike me down because I turned the clave around? Get out of town. Forget about it. It just is not there, you know. It's the way I think about it is rules are made to be broken, you know. Any classical composer, any great one, always, you know, they'd learn the basics, and then they'd start off doing, you know, just the basic compositions, and then they'd have to break out of that to make it something unique. You got to learn the rules, and then you got to break them, you know. This clave thing with 2 and 3 and 3 and 2, gee, Peter, what do you think? Yeah, I know, exactly, it's like. You know, I mean, like I said, you know, I was born and raised listening to Latin music. You know, my grandma used to get up 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, make some Spanish coffee, and she'd have that radio blasting. You know, every morning. It was great. It was wonderful. So it was always in me, with me, around me at all times. But what sets me apart from a lot of the cats is that I like to listen to a lot of different music. Like I said earlier, I listen to a lot of pop, listen to country western, listen to classical, along with the jazz and the Latin and any other things, and polkas. I love a good polka. Are you kidding me? You ever seen a good polka drummer? It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. But the thing is, you got to listen to a lot of stuff. You got to listen to a lot of music, a lot of different styles, you know, and that's what sets me apart from a lot of the percussionists. You got to listen to a lot of different styles of music. I mean, it's good to learn the Latin style, and it's a lot of fun and great. But you're not going to work that much if you're only going to play Latin style. If you want to work and you want to make some money in this business, you got to be able to switch around. You know, there are times, and let's say an example of a day in the life of Lenny Castro. I'll start off 9 o'clock in the morning. I got a jingle, which is a commercial. So a jingle, the one thing with jingles is you got to remember, and it really has nothing to do with music. You're selling a product, you know. So that's a different mentality. You're dealing with 60 seconds, 30 seconds, 15 seconds. You know, that's a whole different thing. That's a whole different mentality. You know, that's something I'll talk about in a minute. And then maybe in the afternoon, I'll have a pop album to do. You know, let's say Joe Cocker, who I just worked with him a couple of weeks ago, right before I came out here. He's doing a new album, and it's fantastic. So let's say the afternoon, I'll go to A&M Studios and I'll work a pop thing. And then at night, maybe I'll have a gig at a club doing some jazz or some Latin stuff with maybe Charisma or Los Lobotomies. So I have shifted each moment, you know. And it's the same thing when you deal with going on the road and coming off the road and going into the studio. A lot of people say, well, how do you deal with that? How do you, you know, it's just a matter of just switching your mind, switching gears. You know, when you're on a live gig, you're doing a live thing, it's a different kind of a chop that you use. When you're in the studio, you have to shut all that stuff off. You have to turn that stuff off and just shift into studio mode. You know, it's just a matter of just applying, just changing your mindset, how you're thinking, you know. Yeah, like I said, the difference between the live and the studio gig is a live, okay, it's a big and you're playing and you're creating excitement. In the studio, you have to create that excitement, but it has to be controlled, you know, because you want to capture that on tape. And if you're overplaying and stuff like that, you're going to ruin whatever recording that you're on, and you won't work again, you know. So that's basically it, you know, like I say, you have to listen to a lot of different musics, a lot of different styles. The more you know, the more you will work, I promise you. It's true, it's happened to me, you know. Like I said, I've done jingles, I'll do movies, I'll do club dates, I'll go on the road. I do all this work. So when one thing is not happening, there's always another thing that's going on. If there aren't any recording sessions, then maybe there's some gigs, you know, live gigs, or maybe there's some commercials, or maybe there's a movie going on. Like for example, right now, there isn't much happening in LA. Things are very quiet. The business is kind of in flux. It's shifting. There's a lot of corporations are kind of rethinking where the money's going. So, you know, Peter called me up and said, hey, come to Finland. Nini wants you to play. I said, man, are you kidding me? I got time. Boom, I'm on the plane coming to Finland, and here I am, you know. But like I said, the more you know, excuse me, Eddie, the more you know, see what I mean? The more you know, the more you'll work, you know. And I think it's very important to be multifaceted is what I call it, you know. And plus, it really adds more excitement to your life, I think. It really, you know, you're just not stuck in one situation all the time, you know. Let's see, at this point, what else can we do now?
Play some tambourine, please.
Play some tambourine. Oh,
Yeah.
There we go with the tambourine.
You played some really cool stuff last night. Please do it again.
Did I?
Sure.
No, man, I don't remember what the hell went on last night. Last night I had a concert down at Umo, the Club Umo, and with Nini. She's a wonderful, wonderful artist. I think she's going to be very, very big. I think you people as Finnish citizens should heavily support her because I think she can really become a national treasure in Finland. Something that comes from Finland that you could be very, very proud of. She's got an incredible voice. She's very, very talented. Next week she's going to have a CD come out the 15th. Yeah, the CD will be coming out on the 15th. Check it out. Check it out. I'm sure they'll be playing it on the radio like crazy. I'm sure Groove FM, my good friend JJ over there at Groove FM, will be playing it, I hope, a lot. But it's definitely worth to listen to. And yesterday it was It was an incredible evening, it really was.